Hello, Joel. Welcome.
Thank you. Hi, everybody.
So welcome to Arquipélago de Escritores, that unfortunately this year it's not taking place in its original location, the beautiful Azores. But who knows, in your next novel, the world would be a normal place and you can
I
travel there
I
because
hope
it's
so.
it's really beautiful.
I hope so.
So for those who eventually don't know you, which I think it's quite difficult, but just let me make a brief introduction. You are an international bestseller author, published in dozens of countries, with one of your books adapted to a TV series
Mm,
directed by the amazing Jean-Jacques Hano.
mm.
You've won several awards like the Grand Prix du Roman de l'Académie Française and the Prix Concours des Lycées. My French accent is not very
Your
good.
French is fantastic.
And you've been nominated for the Prix Concours, right?
Hmm.
Um, You have several books published, as I said, The Final Days of Our Fathers, The Truth About the Harry Cabot Affair, The Baltimore Boys, The Disappearance of Stephanie Mailer, Le Tigre, I'm not sure if it's published in English, and The Enigma of Room 622 that I just finished a few weeks ago. So I've read most of them, I must say. I'm quite a fan, so
Thank you.
cheers for your work. It's really good. You started being published at a young age. I mean, for an author that started being a bestseller very quickly.
Hmm.
Um, I suppose they can be kind of a burden and a blessing at the same time. How do you see it after all these books being published?
Yeah, it's true. It's a success that came quite quickly, age-wise, because I was 27 years old, which is pretty young. I agree. On the other hand, it was not my first book that was a success. I've written many books. So my first book that was a success was my second book that
Right.
was published in France, The Truth About the Harry Kubert Affair. And it was actually my sixth novel. So before that, for the 10 years before the success, I've written five novels before that were all rejected by the publishing house. And I'm
Right.
telling you this to say that it was a success that was not, if it was very, very quick, I agree, it was not sudden. It was not from a day to another. There were a lot of work and especially a lot of failures before. And I'm
Hmm.
mentioning
Hmm.
this because it helped me handling the success in a proper way. What I mean is like getting this success after being rejected five times before by all the publishing house. It helped me realize that the success was something that does not happen. It's getting built. It's not the
Right.
same. And it helped me a lot because I was aware that the success was something that was built, that was following a path of failures before. And I'm saying failures because I really believe in the positive action of failing. It's something very important. And it's something I think that we don't often or don't enough put in front of us, and we don't
Hmm.
acknowledge enough our failures. We have a tendency in the world that we live in to acknowledge and to speak a lot about our success. And we live in a world with a lot of Instagram and Facebook where we picture ourselves in good position, where we make sure that we look good. We make sure that
Hmm.
maybe we add filter. We make sure that what we post is only good moment of life. But
Right.
life. It's made of a building of moments, good and bad. And those moments are very important because it's a construction. So all to say that for me, it really helped me that Harry Kuber was not a success at first and was not something that just happened like that, because it would have been very difficult for me, because I would have been what did I do? Because the success, when something works, you don't really know why it works. You know
Yes.
why it doesn't work. And when you fail, you know, okay, this doesn't work for me because this, and this. And you can
Hmm.
learn from it. So actually, failure is what we should call experience. And experience is the only way to move on with our life. Success, it's
Sure.
really weird because you have no explanation. You cannot really say
Mhm.
why. It's a bit of luck, it's a bit of this, it's being at the right place at the right time, and a lot of things that you cannot really analyze in the end. And in football, in a football game, when a team wins, most of the time, okay, they play good, but you cannot really say why and this because the player was at the right moment and maybe they communicate well, but there was something that you cannot really analyze clearly. But when
Right.
a
So,
football team lose, in the newspaper say, okay, this one
mhm.
was very bad, this one was not playing well, this one was late on the attack, whatever. So I like failing for what it helps you building something with your life.
Right, because from failures comes every lesson we've learned. I mean, we can take the
Yes,
success, of course, but also the failures. And it's nice you said that because you started writing to write even younger than we suppose. Because as you say, you started probably writing. You started writing, of course, since you were a kid, but writing novels. I mean, probably since you were 17, I
yes,
believe, or
exactly.
18.
Yeah. I really started, I was 18, when I really decided to commit to writing novels. And it was a very interesting process for me because I why was I in this mood? Why was I willing to write a novel? Because I was a reader and I was enjoying a lot reading novels. And I was like, wow, I love being a reader. And because I really think that it's the beauty of the books is the reader has a lot of power in a novel when you read because the
Hmm.
reader decides of the characters, of the sceneries, of everything. And
Hmm.
even though sometimes in the book it's written by the author, this character looks like this. If you, as a reader, you imagine this character differently, you win. You have the power in the novel,
Right,
and I like
over
that.
the novel.
And I was like, but I want to try to write also. I want to try to be on the other side of the river and try to write a novel. And then I was like, but how do we write a novel? Because there's no class or lessons or university to be a novelist. If you want to be a pianist, you can go and take classes. If you want to be a doctor, you can go and we will teach you how to be a doctor. And the same if you want to be a teacher or a journalist or a bookseller, whatever you want to do, someone, a university or whatever, you will be taught how to become or how to do this. But to be a writer, there's nothing, it's not really clear. And so
Hmm.
I decided to try to write a novel, but I was completely lost about what's the procedure, what's the protocol, how do we
Right.
start a novel, how many chapters in a novel, how many pages in a novel, is there are there any rules about it? And actually there are none. That's the beauty of
Oh,
novels. You can write
right.
whatever you want, you can decide whatever you want, there is no limit, and that's the beauty
Hmm.
of it. But the hard side is you need to try and try and try, and you can only learn by trying, and that
Hmm.
makes this
Hmm.
process very long and difficult.
Yes. So, would you say there was a book or an author that, in some way, made you do it, or inspire you to do it, or it wasn't any particular book or novel?
Yes, I would like to say that I think that every novels that I read probably influenced me. So there are some authors that are authors that give me, I don't know, so much feelings. I think, for instance, of French author Romain Gary, or I think, for instance, of Swiss author Albert Cohen, or Dostoevsky, for instance. Those are authors that I was admiring. I still admire them for their books, for their work, for the feelings I got from reading their books. So that definitely give me the envy of also becoming an author. But what I would like to say is like I think it's very difficult to say this author inspired me and this one does not inspire me at all, because I
At
think
all.
that
Right.
inspiration, it's
Hmm.
something that you don't control. Inspiration is everything you have done in your life, and that you have every book you've read and every movie you've watched and every painting you've seen, any creative stuff that you've been confronted to, you recorded it somewhere in your brain, it's somewhere there, and at some point it will come back, and at some point it will have an effect on you. And it can be a book that you loved, and maybe you don't even realize it, but you're going to use some of the the story or some of the character, the way it was done, and you will come and you will combine it with another, and it will help you create your own magma, your own personal way of writing a story. But also everything that, for instance, everything I didn't like in a book, I'm sure it's also an inspiration to not do the same. And even though it's not conscious, even though I'm not going to say, okay, this book I didn't like, so I'm going to try not to do the same, I'm sure it's somewhere. I'm showing my brain because it's somewhere,
Right.
I don't know where, but I
It
know it's
influences you, of
somewhere. And I
course.
know I'm going to, at some point, use it to not do the same. And I think
Mhm.
inspiration is something very important because it's part of yourself. It's the combination of everything that you've experienced and that will comes out in a different form, in a different way.
Right. So, picking up on that, you've said you gave an interview to The Guardian, I think it was 2014, and you said, like, I lost a bit of control of my life, but it's good that it happened while I'm young. You were talking probably about the success of Harry Caber, and how it, exploded around the world.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's probably changed, not just because you've grown older and wiser, of course, but also because we are in a different world, and everything it's changing. So if you had to rephrase what you said to The Guardian at the time, what would you say nowadays about how an author, a bestseller author, can control most of his life with the success?
Well, I cannot really take this back because it was my feeling in 2014. And you're right to mention the date because 2014 was not even two, it was a year and a half after the releasing of The Truth About the Harry Kubert Affair. And I still think very strongly that I can only speak for myself, of course, but I still think very strongly that having the success very young was something that is very good and that helped me dealing with the success, helped me dealing of what I want to do with the success, helped me asking myself the right question. Why? Because I think that when you're young, and at the time I had no kids, not married. I was in a disposition where I was able to let this success come through me, and it was not something that was breaking an organization that was already in place for many years. I think that if you get the success later and maybe you're 45 and you have kids that needs you at home and you have your work and you need to leave work and leave the kids and come back, and it's very difficult to handle because you are leaving all of a sudden, you need to leave to do something very egoistic for yourself. It's only about you. You need to leave something that was for the others, the family, for instance, the kids, your organization that was maybe your wife build and it was built around you, and you need to leave this to live your dream. And it's actually not very nice, and it can be very devastating for a family. And on the other hand, if you decide to be the good guy and say, okay, like I don't want to leave my kids for 2 years because it's the time that it took me to travel around the world and to support the book, I don't want to leave everything, I need to stay at home, then you will be probably having a lot of regrets about it and saying, but for years and years, but what if I didn't do this? And I should have tried, I should have traveled, I should have took this opportunity. And maybe you're gonna project these regrets on your wife or your husband or your kids or whatever. I don't know, but all to say, I think that when you're young, when you experience very strong, even I would say trauma, because the success is some kind, it's
Mhm.
a trauma, it's something that is really shaking you and changing you and putting you in a position where even your friends might look you with different eyes. If you're young, you have, I think, the ability and the elasticity in yourself to handle the success and to do something with
Mhm.
it.
Right. So I'm really happy that you did it at that age, and you're now have the time to read some and to write some more astonishing books like this last one.
Thank you.
I'm going to show the cover, of course, that everyone probably knows. This is the Portuguese cover from
Yeah, and I like this
Alfaguara.
cover very, very much.
So
Thank you to the publishing house that did a fantastic work.
yes, Clara, she's amazing. She's a
I
friend.
like Tara
So
very, very
cheers,
much.
cheers, cheers for that. Um, so this recent book, it's also quite, I would say, peculiar in a very good sense, because you've done something amazing, which is a kind of a form of fiction where the narrator has your name or has a
Mm.
bit of you. Let's say it. And also you're paying tribute to Bernard de Fallois, your editor. I think I read somewhere, and correct me if I'm wrong, you started writing the book before he died. And so it's a kind of biographical in a sense, but at the same time it's not. So you want to tell us a little bit about this experience
Yes,
and why you decided to do this? I'm really curious.
it's very true what you said about I started this book before Bernard de Fallois died. Just to replace Bernard de Fallois was my author in France. He was the very first one to believe in me, to publish my work, and he's the one that really make the success of the truth about the Harry Kubert affair. He was strongly believing in this book. He worked so hard to create the success, because I think for the success you need to have a book, but you also need to have someone that is not you, the author, someone that will take this book and defend it and promote this book and help the book to find the readers. And so Bernard was someone very important to me. He was a little older than I am because he was born in
Yes.
1926. So he was 60 years older than I was. And he had lived a fantastic life. He was a very important character in Paris, in the French publishing world. And I was fascinated by this man. And when I was meeting him all the time, I was like, but I should take notes. And I was actually taking notes about what he was saying. But I was like, I want to share with my readers this extraordinary man. And a few times I mentioned it to him. I was like, Bernard, I would like to write about you. And he was like, oh, no, no, please don't do that. Please don't do that. He was mad at me. I was like, no, no, don't do that. And so I didn't really pursue this project and this work. I just took some notes. And he passed away in 2018. He was 92 years old. And as he passed away, I felt like it was for me the time, not it was the time, but I didn't wanted to miss this opportunity to tell a bit about Bernard to my readers, because I knew that if I was waiting more, maybe I will. It will not be the moment anymore. It will be. It was now. I don't really know how to say it, but I felt at this moment that this project that I had, I wanted for a couple of years so much to tell about Bernard, about what he was and how important he was to me. I was like, this is now or never. And so I took my notes again and I decided to write about him. And it was in the beginning, it was a little autobiography, if I can say so, because it was really about my relationship about Bernard and how we met and what he did and what extraordinary
Mhm.
man he was for me. And then I realized that maybe as he was a publisher, he was a novel, he loved the literature so much. I was like, but maybe I should create a novel around this. And this is how I decided to write this book, which is, as you said, it's true. It's it's a little bit about Bernard and I, and a little bit autobiographical, what I tell about him. And around this story, there's a novel that is fiction, and this is
Mhm.
how an author resolves a crime that happened a couple of years before that. And I managed to link the two stories using the same character that is investigating and the same that is
Mhm.
in the story with Bernard, which is Joël Dicker.
Yes.
And I'm saying Joël Dicker and not I, because the entire book plays on this. Is it me or is it just my name? And
Yes.
it's also something that I wanted to do because what is very funny is how when Harry Kubert was released, in Harry Kubert there is this character Marcus Goldman that lives in New York,
Mm-hmm.
and that I
Mm-hmm.
created because it was not me. And when I started to write this book, I wanted to have someone that was not me. This is how, and at that time I was writing, and all my work was refused, and I was like, I'm never going to be a novelist. No one will never read my work. And so I decided to create Marcus Goldman, a novelist that writes one book and paf, that's huge success.
That's it.
Exactly not me.
Right.
But the book is released and everybody tells me, oh, so Marcus is you. And I was like, no, Marcus is Marcus and I am Joel. Marcus is in New York. I am in Geneva. It's not me. But for years and still now, people keep telling me, you are Marcus Goldman, even though my name is Joel Dicker. And when the TV show was released, a lot of people came to me and said, okay, the character of Marcus doesn't really look like you. I'm like, it's not me. It's not me. And it was very funny. This is why I decided to put this character in this book that is Joel Dicker. But I'm not saying if it's me or not me. And it's funny because the reaction of the readers, it creates a bit of an electroshock because the readers are like, but is it you or not you? And it's very funny because a lot of readers assumed and decided that Marcus Dorman was Joel Dicker. And
Right.
a lot of readers are not really sure if Joel Dicker is Joel Dicker. Sorry, and it's very funny because it tells you about the power of the reader. As I was telling you before, the one that has the power in a novel, it is not the author, it's the reader, because the reader is the one that makes the decision. So when you put the reader in a position where it's difficult to make a decision, for example, because the same name, so is it
Mm-hmm.
really him or not? And the reader needs to make a decision because he's in charge, and
Right.
and I like that.
Yeah, I can tell you that's true. As a reader, it happened, and I'm still not sure. So, and that's
Even me, I'm not
that's
sure.
really that's the beauty of literature. Really, it's the magic of the words. So
Yeah,
it's really beautiful. Um, even more because in this book you decided to take it home. I mean, the scenario, it's Switzerland,
mhm.
your home country, so the doubt still remains in
Yes, it's
how
true.
it's you or not. So why now, why did you decide to finally or to write about your home country?
It was something that I wanted to do for a very long time, but it was very difficult for me. Probably because and I know sometimes it's difficult to tell you this, but I am a young author. I am not about the age, but about the work. I've been very lucky to find the success at a young age, but it doesn't mean that I don't have to make all the steps that all the author in the world and all the creators in the world, whatever you paint or you do music or whatever, you your work will evolve with the time because you will go to some milestone in your life when you're a young adult, then you're going to have kids, then your kids are going to grow up, and it will make you look at the life with different eyes, and those milestones will have an impact on your work as an artist, that's for sure. So even though the success came very early for me, I will have to have those milestones done. It will happen to me slowly and slowly. I know that. So for me, one of the milestone as a young author with Harry Kuber and the Baltimore Boys, for instance, was using the United States as a set for my novels because I know very well the states and I wanted to do so, but also because it was a little trick as a young author to be able to take some distance between my reality for Joel, me, I speaking right now, and the reality of the novel, which is the fiction. And reality and fiction are something that cannot really live together. Fiction, it's the freedom to write whatever you want. It's the freedom to create whatever you want, no question asked because you decided so. Reality is when you try to make this freedom fit in a box that will not really be made for it. For
Mhm.
instance, if I decide my new novel, I decide that it starts in Geneva 5 December 1985. And I decided that that day it was snowing like crazy because I want it and because I need it for the plot and for the book. I write it. I can do that. It's fiction. I can decide whatever I want. But at the moment, I will decide to check this fact, and I will go on Google, for instance, and I will check the weather 5 December 1985 in Geneva. I know that now Google is so well done that I will know exactly, maybe hour by hour, I will know what was the weather that day. And maybe it was not snowy at all, and it was very sunny. And maybe it was even the hottest day of December that year. But so this I don't want to know, because the reality can ruin the fiction, can ruin the freedom. And I'm telling you, I'm sorry, this long explanation to tell you that me living in Geneva, it was very difficult for me to write a book that was set in Geneva, because I was facing this reality all the time. It was difficult for me because if I wanted to decide for my book in the fiction that at the corner of these two streets there's a restaurant, and then I go out and I walk and I go on this street and I see it's not a restaurant, it's a store, I would be like, it would be difficult for me, but it's not the reality, it's not the way it is. What should I do? So it took me a very long time, and I tried, but it took me a very long time to be able to set a fiction in my reality of Geneva.
I'm glad you finally did again, because it's a really good book. So
Thank you
cheers
very
to that.
much. Thank you.
So going a little back to the truth about Harry Caber affair. I think someone said it reminded a bit of Nabokov,
Mhm.
which is amazing. He's one of my favorite authors, and you are also one of my favorite authors. So,
Thank you.
how was it to see it being adapted to a TV series? And you worked very closely, I believe, with the director, and how was this experience of seeing your character go on, being on the TV and seeing it, putting a face to it, and how was it?
It was a very fun experience for two reasons. The first one was the idea of an adaptation was something that I was very okay with it. Some readers or even some authors I talked to told me, but the adaptation, it's terrible. They take your book, they do whatever they want with it, they change this, they change that, and blah 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 blah. And my answer was yes, but you can also say no to it. You can also, as the author, you can say, I don't want an adaptation, and you can decide that. So it's not an obligation. And me, I was very excited about an adaptation, because I was excited because for the first time, I will be able to get into the head of one of the reader, the director. And for me, an adaptation, it's not showing the truth in images about a book. It's only allowing the readers to get into the head of one reader and see how he saw the book, how he saw the characters, how he saw the action and everything. But it's not the truth, and that's something very important. So also that first step was, for me, I was super relaxed about it because I knew it was only one of the truth of the book, because there's as many truth of one book of there is readers. Every readers has his own truth when he reads a book, and that's the beauty of the books. When you watch a movie, we all see the same movie. When we read a book, we all read a different book, even though we read the same story. And that was the first point. The second point was Jean-Jacques Hano, the director of this TV series, was, and this is why I decided to do it with him, was very into keeping the book, being very truthful to the story, keeping the character, keeping the timeline, keeping the flashback and everything. And so I was very happy about that because I knew it would be really truthful to the book, and that was important for me. It was important for me, for instance, to have the story set in the States, because it could have been adapted in France or in Italy or in Portugal or wherever. So for me, it was, I really wanted to have this American aspect of the story, and I really wanted for the director to follow the story of the book. And this is something that I knew only a TV show could do, because a movie would have been too short. And
Mhm.
if you would have to adapt this 600 pages book in a 2 hours movie, of course you should have cut a lot. You should have decided of
Mhm.
keeping this and not this, and it would have only been one part of view of the story and not the entire story. So for me, knowing it was a TV show and knowing Jean-Jacques Hano, I knew there were the space and it was well done the way I wanted to be, which is being truthful to the story, with then the freedom for the director to create the character, to decide of the cast, to decide of the settings as he imagined when he read the story.
And it's really good. Um, let's go back a bit to Bernard, because I think most people don't know how the publishing world works.
Mhm.
And I believe Bernard was also a big influence to you, choosing book deals, and also about the adaptation. He was really critical about who to choose and everything. Um, so tell us a little bit the influence of having someone to guide you or to steer
Mhm.
you in as an author in this publishing crazy world. How is it, and how important is it to have this person?
Yeah, it's true. The publishing world is a weird world, because there is so many books. There is so many books you can make. There is so many ideas you can have, that as an author, you come with an idea, with a book, with something you work very hard for maybe years, and you go to a publisher that maybe will just say, I don't want it. I don't want to make it as a book. Or maybe we'll say, okay, I like it, but I want to change this, and this. And it can be something very violent, I would say. I'm using this word because for an author that puts so much care in a book, when you have someone that comes and say, okay, we need to do this and cut this and take this and do that, you feel like someone is taking something out of you. And this is why you need to find an author, an editor, a publisher that will be caring enough to make you understand that what he is doing is not for himself or even for the book, it's for you. And by reading, rereading, working, correcting your work, he is making you, the author, a favor. He's helping you out, because this is going to shape your work, not only making the book better for the readers that will read it then, but because every time he will come and make a suggestion or a change or a correction, it will be, and it will show it to you the way it will be mirroring it to you. You will see in the book a mirror of yourself, and you are going to learn about you. You are going to learn about your process. You are going to try and maybe to understand slowly and slowly why you do what you do, and maybe even more, you will realize why you wrote this book. What was the actual theme of the book? What was the actual purpose of the book? And maybe you wrote a crime story because you thought it was entertaining, and you realize that the crime story, it's really just a little aspect of the book, but the book actually speaks about something else. And then you're like, oh my God, I did that. And writing, it's a lot about the unconscious part of ourselves. The same way when we
Mhm.
read, there's an echo as a reader. When you read, there's an echo that you don't always see. But for instance, if I tell you right now, okay, imagine a dog, and I know you right now, you imagine a dog, and I know exactly what kind of animal you imagine. It's a dog, but I don't know if you imagine a big dog or a small dog, or if it's yellow or black or with long hair or short hair, whatever. And so this is your dog. And then if I ask you, but why did you imagine this dog like this and not like that? You will have an echo in yourself, because maybe you'll say, oh, but because it's the dog that my grandparents had in the summer house.
Mhm.
And you will create a lot of links with, and why is this dog or this house so important to you? So all to say that the publisher is not only someone that make your book a little more better for the readers, but it's also someone that teach you why you do what you do, where are your strength, where are your weakness, and try to help you get why you do this, why you write.
Mhm. Mhm. So it's a precious help, I believe.
Yes.
So you've come a long way in your books in terms of scenarios, as you said. Um, I think there's a book in the UK, right?
Hmm.
Um, in the USA, of course. Russia, I think, also a little bit,
Yes, the Tigre.
and
Yes.
Switzerland. So, and in different times in world history and different scenarios. So, in this day and age, and with this all that we're living in, um, it's going to influence probably your next book, or do you have any expectations about that, or how do you feel about the next steps in your career with all that's going on, and the ones you had before?
It's difficult to look forward. What I mean is, like, it's difficult to already know what I will do, what will be the direction that I will do. It's something that makes sense afterwards. Afterwards, when I stop and I look back and I look at my books and why I did what I did, I can see my path. And I think that was, I think, Steve Jobs that mentioned this in a pretty well-known speech he made, I think, in Stanford, for the student in Stanford,
Mhm.
where he explained that your path of life, it's not something that you can foresee. It's not, you cannot say, I'm going to do this, and this. You do the things, and then you look back and you realize how and why you did this, and how every step had an impact. And so it's difficult for me, and I don't really have a clear answer even for myself to say what will be the next book, what will be the next story, where the next book will be set. It's because, maybe because for me, writing, the process of writing a book comes a little like when you want to cook, when you're hungry, for instance. Why do you eat? Most of the time because you're hungry. All of a sudden you're hungry and say, "Oh my God, I'm hungry. I forgot to have lunch. I was so busy in what I was doing. I want to eat." And so what do? You go to the kitchen, you open the fridge, and you look at the fridge, and at this moment, at this precise moment, you don't really know what you want to eat. You want to eat, but you don't know what. You open the fridge, you look what you have, and you will make a decision based on what. This looks very, very good. Or this looks better. And tomatoes, I want to make a sauce. Oh, pasta. You will create something like this. And maybe what's in the fridge is not good, or you don't want to eat this. So you're gonna go to the supermarket, to the grocery store, and you're gonna go in the grocery and look at the things. Oh, do I want to do this or do this? And this is the way I write. I have this. I I want to write. It's something that
Mhm.
I need to do. It's physical. That's why I'm doing this,
So,
like, movement. It's physical. But then,
like a
but what do I
craving.
want to write? And I go to the supermarket of the books, of the ideas, of the inspirations, and I do my market to cook my own little meal.
It's a really beautiful analogy, and
Thank you.
so I'm not taking you much longer. I know you have a very busy schedule. I don't know if you just want to leave a message for the Portuguese readers
Yes,
before
I was.
we finish.
Yes, I was very. I mean, I'm very pleased for. I've come many times to Portugal for my books. I'm really. It's the first time I cannot come with this new book because of the situation, the pandemic, and it makes me very sad because for two reasons. Because first of all, I love to be defending my book, to come to see the readers, to make this book live for real, to go to the bookshops, and especially with you guys, because I love to come to Portugal. I love my publishing house. Big kiss to Clara, my publisher in Portugal, who is fantastic. And so it really missed me this time, and I hope to come. And I just want to tell you guys in Portugal, stay safe, and all the best to you. And I hope that soon enough we'll be able to be together for real and not through screens. We're done with
Yes,
screens. We
yes.
want to see each other and hug for real.
So once again, Joel, thank you for your time and for your
Thank
work,
you.
which is
Thank you very much.
amazing. And let's hope that next book we can see you in the Azores, which
I
would
hope
be
so.
a pleasure. Thank you
It would
so
be
much.
fantastic. Thank you very much. Have a good
Bye
day.
bye. Thank you, Joel.
Bye.
Bye bye.